Our first demo is the lexicon acquisition. And so I went ahead and made a new language up and just call it test so we can play around a little bit. Go over to lexicon and click target stems. And let's play around with some nouns. So in the lexicon, you can look, there'll be screens for each different part of speech. And the important thing then is that there are, for each part of speech, there can be stems, features, and forms. Features try to set up different classes of words, and forms do pretty much what it sounds like. So let's go ahead for this language and add a couple features. Let's just say there's a gender feature, gender class in this language. You go ahead and you give it the different range of values. So masculine, feminine. Notice that LA is giving it this abbreviation character over there. That's what you see in the semantic representation, these abbreviations. And let's do one more feature, call it size, I guess. And define that and give it the range of values that it has. And of course, if you forget something, you can always go back and add. Let's just call big and little for this. It's always good to put not applicable to if there is a chance that something isn't applicable, some feature is not applicable. So then we can go ahead, if you add a stem, I'm just going to put in some nonsense words here, add a stem, it'll ask you for that stem what the feature is. So let's say this is feminine and little. And then it'll ask you for a gloss. This is the gloss in your language of description, so usually English. And then it enters it, and you can see if you click features, it'll show you what the features are. So then let's add a couple forms for this language. Not all languages have forms for every part of speech, but this is how you do it. Click on New Form, and let's call this, there'll be for these nouns, there'll be a singular form and a plural form. And we'll just call them that. Now, for each root, you could go in and just enter the actual form there, but it's usually funner to write a form rule. So for every form you've defined, there'll be a form rule there. Give it a name. There are different types of rules. You can add prefixes or suffixes. You can do simple or table rules. Let's go ahead and do a table rule. We'll give you an example of a simple one later. You can add prefixes, suffixes. You can add it to stems. There's different base forms. We won't get into all of these things, but you can, instead of adding an affix, you can add a new word, and then you'd have to give it that word a new user-defined part of speech. Let's just go ahead and make it easy and do a suffix. For a table rule, you click on this row, and you say, all right, this row is for masculine nouns. Then you click Add Row, and say, okay, this row is going to be for feminines, and then click on an Add Row, and this row is going to be for neuters. All right, then you go to your columns. It starts off with this general thing which doesn't have anything, so let's instead of saying general, let's say this one's big. This column is for all big nouns. This column will be for all little nouns. And for now, let's just forget the non-applicable. One thing you can do, though, is you can, in the upper corner, you can put a feature that should apply for everything. So let's say, we could say, when you click it, you get a check mark. If you right-click, you get this red box, which means it can't be that value. So now this table will only apply to things that are not applicable. And that's what that top corner one does. So now we can just enter the values. These are the suffixes for the one we just did was masculine little, and we just enter masculine big, and you just go ahead and enter what you want there. These are suffixes that are going to be then added depending on what class the noun is that you're entering. So just a little bit of made up some things there. It's always good to put in the grammar topics, so that when you output your grammar, it's able to collect all the rules for a particular topic. You can add your own. So we can say size is important in this language. So we'll do have the size topic, and so this rule now will have both those topics. You have to give a part of speech to your suffix. This is a number suffix that we're adding, and we're done. Now let's do a similar one for plural. Give it a name, and let's do just a simple rule. And so a simple rule, you can set whatever features have to match for that simple rule. Let's just say it could be any of these. So when you click in more than one in a column, it can match on any of those. So any of those features will match. So basically any noun for the plural form, you're going to give it yes, and it still has the same number, the number tag to it, part of speech. And so it's always good to put your topics in. And so now we're done with the form rules. Click OK, and you see what it did there is it automatically puts in the correct form given the features of that particular root word. So this one, if you remember, if you click on features, this one was feminine and little. And so if you click the forms, that's, if you remember in the table, that's the feminine little singular form. And then they all have the same plural. Now, if you add a new stem, let's call this one ABC, you can set your features as usual, and then click OK, and then it'll ask you to check the forms and say, okay, those are fine, so you just go ahead and click OK, and give it your gloss, and click Enter or OK, and features and forms show up as you expect. Now let's add just one more form, one more root word, excuse me. Let's give it a feminine. And now, if it's an irregular form of this root, you can click on that and change it. And let's just change it to something, and then you'll see that it comes out in a white box there. And give it its gloss, and then you can see, if you look at the forms, you can see that that one's irregular because it's white.